But welcome to Quizzy Monday. Hope you enjoyed the evening's quizzing. We certainly did. We've got two of the stars of this evening's quizzing joining us tonight. Michael from the victorious Imperial College team, and we've also got Lindsay from the slightly less victorious Whodunits from Only Connect, and we've also got a special guest in Bobby Seagull. Now, I'll just put a banner along the bottom to remind you, you can put comments or questions in the chat. So feel free to send us comments and questions, and we will try our best to answer them. Just before we get going, I just want to add, just run through a few bits of housekeeping. So obviously this is Quizzy Monday. That's what you've got to look forward to tonight. Delighted to have the three of them there. But we've been running a vote since Quiz Week Live. Quiz Week Live, we had people nominated for Quizzer of the Week and Quiz Team of the Week. People were voting through to Sunday, and the Quizzer of the Week was Ian Toms with a record margin of victory for Ian. He won the Ashman Trophy in the Quiz League of London, but he's been dominating all forms of the sport recently. So well done to Ian Toms. Second was Mark Henry, who got a stupendous score in OQL, and third was Ned Pendleton for his full house in Quiz League of London. Quiz Team of the Week was probably the closest vote we've had yet. And just nicking it was MK Lakers from Milton Keynes, who won a very tight match in their cup final. Came from behind, I think 7 points behind, and ended up winning it. So well done to MK Lakers. Second were GNS Heroes, who after 17 games without a win in OQL have picked up 2 wins on the bounce. And third is the Unknowns, again from OQL. Moving on, we are running this is the answer, what is the question? The answer is BAS. We're running this on Twitter and in our writers group on Facebook. We're inviting people to submit questions to which the answer is BAS, and then we'll put them to a vote starting tomorrow to try and find a winner, and we'll announce the winner on Thursday. We've got some good questions in so far. Next up, on Twitter, we do lunchtime quiz time, and today is International Women's Day, and this was a question we put out about the origins of International Women's Day, but all month we're doing questions about fantastic women. And part of our ethos at All Things Quiz is to try and make quiz more inclusive. So all month we're going to be putting the spotlight on women. So look out for that. We also just released our latest video in our Quiz Academy series. That's gone live. That's to help people improve their quizzing. And I think that might be the housekeeping done. So without further ado, I will bring on stream our 3 special guests, Bobby Seagull, Michael Kohn, and Lindsay Baumeister. Welcome all.
Hello.
Hello.
Lindsay,
Hi.
have you got the April with you tonight?
Have I got what, sorry?
Your April with you. Are you downing the drinks to...
No, I feel like I need it tonight after that.
It was a real pity, yeah.
I was literally shouting at the TV.
Yeah, the first time. Yeah, but I fill up when I talk about it, so I'll just say it once, but I'll put it on Twitter. The Beatles question. I only got that because it was my mum's favourite Beatles album. She used to play it when she was pregnant with me and when I was really little. So if she got to see that, if she'd been here and she got to see that and then see me sing on telly, because she was like my biggest fan, she would have absolutely loved that, and I proper filled up.
You got a great voice, Lindsay, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to sing in pubs and clubs and stuff, and I've always loved singing. But I never thought I'd got to do it on my own on national television. So I'm expecting.
When you said there was singing in the semis, I didn't think it would be you on your own, and it was amazing.
I cut one out. There were 2. So when the "Wouldn't It Be Lovely" question, Vicky turned and went, "Right, we'll get Lindsay to sing the answer to this one." But sadly they couldn't keep them both in. That would have been too much for some people, not for me. But if I have to duck off, I'm assuming it's Simon Cowell ringing me. Or someone similar. So if I have to nick off, that's why.
Claire, who's been on our stream, says commiserations to Lindsay and team. Enjoyed your singing. What I want to hear is the Ice Ice Baby. I think the whole world is crying out for that one, Lindsay.
It was so funny because she read out the fact just before they start filming. She just reading through the facts, and so Vicky started it. And then I joined in, and we just got to the bit about turn off the lights as the lights went down and we started filming. I could do it, but it would just be too many minutes to take up.
Yeah.
But I did it once on stage in New Orleans as well, to a roaring crowd. Some English woman in shorts and a vest rapping Ice Ice Baby in a terrible Yorkshire accent.
Amazing.
Yeah, word to your mother.
Will is wondering whether you'll go on The Voice next.
No. Not unless you have a bit of time with Blake Shelton, but no.
Lindsay, I noticed that Victoria gets a lot of people to sing on the show. Is this a Victoria thing, or is it the producers are quite encouraging of singing? Because
the first time our team sang, we did Especially for You, and I was sat next to her, and so she must have heard me more than the others. And the show, there was a fact that was written that I was a keen karaoke singer. And just before we were going to film, she turned around and said, "I'm not reading that out because that takes away from your lovely voice." So I think she was just a fan, possibly. But yeah, it was awesome. But I was hoping so hard that it would be different when I watched it back, that the result would be different. But no.
It felt like it swung on a few things, a couple of things where you hit the post or were close, and like the dog one and.
Question.
Yeah, Pam says, bad luck, Lindsay and team. Grace says, good job on Only Connect. Hope you do fantastic in the third place playoffs. You guys are a lovely team. Absolutely. We've really enjoyed watching you. We're glad we get to see one more episode. And I just look on with envy that, as I may have mentioned once or twice, my team never got a third or fourth place playoff. So if Jenny Heap is watching, still needs to happen.
Have you been back for a special, Gareth?
I haven't been back for a special. No.
We need an all things quiz special where we just get people who might not even have been on the show. Michael's on my team. I'm Bagsying him. Tonight, because even after the first word of a question, he's going to know the answer. Which, and he'll just know the answer. But yeah, it's really hard. But what I keep telling myself is we didn't think we'd get past the quarters, and we did. And I think that was part of the problem. We almost didn't feel like we deserved to be there. And so I think we were taking more chances than we would have done had we had that confidence. But we got to film all 6 shows. So we got, on I'm a Celebrity, when it's the person who came second and they go, "Oh, but I still got to do the full experience." And you go, "Yeah, right." That's exactly how it feels, because we did. We were there till the last day. The top 4 teams, there were 3 of us, had such a laugh in the green room. I can't wait to see who wins, because we don't know. Obviously, I know what my result is and who we play. But it's good. But it was that missing vowels round.
Yeah.
He said, write a missing vowels round that Alan Flanagan won't be any good at.
It was unfortunate because Alan had been so strong previously, but credit to the other team, they were very, very good. The Puzzle Hunters.
Katie said afterwards that she'd either recently or as a child been really into Edward Lear. So it was, and the only one I ever knew was a man with a beard, and that one went. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? It comes up, you know it. They were in there, and we'll see how they do. I mean, we got 10 points on their wall, which is a frustration, but we'd also have got no points on other walls where we got the one that was the one we got 10. But it all balances out. But I'm still really annoyed.
It does. We'll probably go into it in a bit more detail later, but I just want to bring Bobby in. Oh no, hang on, wrong one. Whoa, and the wrong one again. So people are putting comments in, so I had the cursor in the right place, and then new comments coming. Bobby, why are you not watching West Ham? They're 2-0 up against
Leeds. Separate screens, they're on the screen. Yeah, that's all right.
Never let it be said that men can't multitask. Good work, Bobby. Obviously people came to know you from University Challenge, but you must have a degree of empathy for what it feels like to not go the whole way. You've been aiming to win. You don't quite make it. Everybody loves you, but love don't pay the bills. So you haven't got that title. How did you cope with all of that, Bobby?
To be honest, it was genuinely gutting. Now I think sort of like as the passage of time has progressed, it doesn't feel so. All seems positive. But at the time, I was honestly devastated. I remember because they filmed on University Challenge the semi and final on the same day. So the semis are the morning, final after lunch. And the thing is, I think the mistake was I was thinking about the final. I was thinking about, okay, I've got my outfits lined up. I created a spreadsheet of every single possible combination before the series first match. Like if we lose match 1, fine, that's out. But if we match one we're out, where highest players loser, and round two, if you lose the first match, so I had like a sort of almost like a tree diagram, every single possible outfit. And I always said I would never exit wearing casuals. So my exit out, so my possible last match would always been a suit and tie. So I planned my final outfit. It was like my best suit and tie outfit. And I was thinking so much about the final, like how would I lift the trophy? Like, would I lift it like school certificate? Will I hoist it up like a Champions League trophy? So in the semi-final, I was a bit distracted. So on the buzzer, like Monkman was phenomenal. So I couldn't get a word in. But on the bonuses, I was calm. But yeah, it's a weird experience. But having lost it, and we go back to the green room, and like all my team, we were just like sitting there, slumped down. And then obviously we're cheering on Eric and his team. But it was definitely, like in hindsight, like, oh yeah, it was an amazing experience. But definitely at the point of losing, I felt very miserable. And I'm very miserable.
Yeah, no, you're one of the most bouncy Tigger-like people I've ever met. So thinking you're miserable would be quite tough. Michael, I've lost track of where we are in University Challenge now. Does that mean you're in the final now?
Semi-final.
Semi-final.
So that was the playoffs for the teams who'd won and lost one quarterfinal.
I know, it's University Challenge rivaling Only Connect for the labyrinthine competition structure. Okay,
well,
so
Imperial have made full use of that labyrinthine structure, having lost at every point you can lose and not go home.
Yeah, you really went sightseeing.
If we win, I'll tell you that we're the first semi-final. I probably can't tell you who we're against.
Okay.
But we're the first, so we're in 2 weeks' time. Again, I'm on the same week as Lindsay.
It's your fault, you jinxed us when you said if you lose and we win, we'll be on the same week again.
I did.
We will.
But if we win that, we will. I think someone said to me, we will be the first team to have played 8 matches on University.
I was about to say that.
Wow.
So we'll just have to find out.
That'd be quite something.
As Bobby said, I didn't expect to make it to the quarterfinals, let alone into the semi-finals. So you
had an amazing outfit on, Michael. I loved it. The waistcoat.
that was my best outfit. That's what I thought we were going home. So I thought I can only wear the waistcoat if we've got above 200. We got above 200 against Kings. I'm wearing the waistcoat in case I don't get the chance.
Did you ever think what you might wear in the semi-final?
Unfortunately, it's an outfit you've seen before.
Oh. Well, Michael, I'm sure we'll love it. Jason, our friend Jason, has put a comment in saying outstanding work from Michael and the team tonight, but I was distracted by Michael's excellent waistcoat.
So it was a really, really nice 21st birthday present from my grandmother, which is probably like one of the nicest things anyone has ever bought me. So I thought, I have to wear it. She bought it for me just before actually the pandemic started. So I thought, no one's going to see it for ages unless I wear it on University Challenge.
And we've got so many comments coming in, but I just want to put Grace, because Grace has been with us week after week. She's been absolutely fantastic. She's over in America, and she's put, my school actually started a quiz bowl, and I immediately joined it. Can't wait to start quizzing in real life. I think it's great that watching people like you on TV kind of is inspiring people to get involved. I won't do the shoddy plug for our quiz academy, maybe later. But what tips would you guys say? You know, if you're starting to do quiz bowl, which is like the American equivalent University Challenge, where do you start trying to get your head into the subject matter?
I started with stuff I liked. So I'm as you saw, even though I screwed up probably the easiest art question in the game, I got, I think, pretty much all of the other art questions right, and there were a lot of art that were given to Imperial. So I really like art and classical music, and of course I have science A levels. So that's where I started. And then I picked up sort of history stuff by osmosis. But I still have massive, massive holes in my knowledge, which is why I'd be no good on stuff that's not a team game.
Interesting. Bobby, what about you? Had you always been a quizzer, or did you kind of start boning up for University Challenge?
So I think for me, bizarrely, sorry, I have made this confession before. Before I got onto my team for University Challenge, I never watched an episode of the show. I'd like reading. I've always loved reading. My family, we're all readers. We go to the library every Saturday, a house full of books and knowledge and discussion. But quiz shows never really, I think partly because University Challenge seems so intimidating. You'd watch it for a couple of seconds and you see some question. You see someone like Michael and you go, okay, Dad, change the channel. So we'd watch it for maybe like a total of 1 minute over the course of like 15 years. But after I saw the audition note at my Cambridge College, applied, got on my team. Firstly, didn't get in. The next year I did. And then obviously by that time I'd got into the show. So it's one of the weird things where now my family know Monday 8 to 9 never disturb me. Whereas if it come 4 or 5 years ago, Monday 8 to 9, I'd be oblivious. I'd be like, I don't know, watching the equivalent of Netflix or West Ham playing football. But yeah, it's a strange turn of the tables.
It was a really enjoyable episode of Only Connect, despite kind of Lindsay losing. What were your highlights, guys? What I tell you what my key moment was, or not key moment, but enjoyable moment. It was when first question, round 1, when Alan was explaining the working class references thing, and the hammer on the Soviet flag, and Boxer in Animal Farm is a horse. That was my favourite moment.
I just love Alan Flanagan so much. There were so many things that he said off camera that were that kind of funny, and even just the things when we're having conversations, the three of us, he's just brilliant.
My favourite 2 questions felt like they were back to back, and it was Lindsay, your answer on the Beatles question, and then the John Steinbeck novels. I've been waiting for that kind of question.
There were a lot of ones I was mad at that we didn't that we got. Like, wouldn't it be lovely had I just thought in my head one enormous chair rather than giant chair, and I got there like that? Because my baby was my mum and mine. One of my favourite films to watch for The Sound of Music. So that was annoying. But then the John Steinbeck one is just all I could think of when she said Robert Burns is how my mum used to make a joke or something about Afghan Agli instead of Afghan Agli, whatever it is, and that just came to me when I heard that. I didn't even think about mice and men or anything.
And of course, I think the words before those words that you just said are of mice and men. It's the best laid plans of mice and men. And then,
I never knew the whole poem, but
that's the only line I know. That's how I knew. Well, hang on, I don't know anything about this poem apart from it's a John Steinbeck novel.
But as bad as I felt, I reckon Alan Hay would have felt worse, because that's the sort of thing I think he would. The minute it got said, he realised he knew them all. That's just the sort of thing he'd know. But yeah, one of many.
Bobby, was there anything that leapt out to you during Only Connect?
Obviously, apart from the Beatles singing, that was like singing is something that I always look out for on Only Connect. Perhaps the only reason why I would never apply for Only Connect, I can't sing. I love singing.
I've never stopped.
I enjoy singing. I can't sing, so like it's too much of a risk. But I quite like the question with the 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4. That was a really on the spot to work out the translation or shifting of the letters. And I know Katie Steckles in real life because she's a fellow maths communicator. So I was, I'm sorry, Lindsay, your team lost. I was rooting for you because I knew you had to do it, but I know Katie in real life, so
yeah. I think my problem with that was though, it should have been answered quicker. It was clear he knew it, but he got given a long time to say it, and that didn't on the ground. I know this sounds like sour grapes and all that. It's not. It's one of them things where literally the Judge Judy meme is what was going through my head. It just felt like we were letting him. He should have had it like that, like the way it would have been if it had passed over. And yes, it's only 1 point, but it does make a difference. But
it makes a difference to your morale.
Some of that, yeah, it does, because you just think, and then when the missing vowels come, you just think everything's against us. But some of the knowledge in his head, like the racing one, the bike race one, we were sat there going, "Oh my god." Yeah, but that's still a little sticky point for me.
Yeah, there was a big ouch moment with that. Was it S 10,759 J 4.33, because you clearly knew what the answer was about, and you went for 1 as in 1 year rather than 365.
We suddenly became completely risk accepting instead of risk averse, and just went, "Oh, it's a year, so it's going to be 1," and we just didn't take that. And I felt like I egged him on a bit, so I do feel guilty about that. But it's that you know the answer, and you just should not. You should just take that few seconds. Yeah. There were a few. I think we threw, as much as we were beaten by a good team, I think we also threw away a lot of the points. It wasn't like it wasn't like their first match where they won 28-13 or whatever it was. It was close, and we threw a lot of points away, and I think we should have had that match. There you go. That's just me.
Frustrating when you
to the easy interview tonight by coming here, not dishing it, and then you got me going.
No, I mean it's frustrating when you zig when you should have zagged, and we saw a few of those on Mastermind. We're not because of the people we got on tonight, probably won't mastermind that much. But there were a few where people were in the seat and just kind of, you knew it was 1 or 2 and they went the wrong one. And that kind of felt like one where it just didn't quite, let's say you hit the bar. It was unfortunate. Trying to hit the bar. Bobby's just checking to see how West Ham are doing. But I did enjoy Alan Hay jumping in with the gunpowder plot answer. Button was pressed and he just leapt in.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
No, you got it, but he jumped in to give it, didn't he?
There we go. Because then the thing is, I kind of, a couple of friends, somebody messaged me and said that they've been saying something about you singing, and I said about, there's a couple of times where I've said the answer and Alan's the one who said it out loud. And it does, there's a whole dynamic of me being a woman, him being a man and all that stuff. And it is frustrating, but it's never, ever Alan thinking he knows it. He is, it kind of, oh no, it's not that. Oh no, you're right, it is that. But we ain't got time for to stand up and go, I'm saying this answer, but Lindsay said it first. We were a team. Yeah. And the fact is, he said it before, he's a Rolodex, so I obviously clicked it to the right thing, and he went, oh yeah, you're right. And it's happened on some of the walls where I've said something, no, shush. And it happened, and maybe sometimes I should step in and say no, but he weren't having the beat on Lindsay. That was mine.
Yeah, that was definitely yours. And when you're in the moment, when you're in the studio and the zone and the competitive juices are flowing,
I wouldn't swap him for anybody.
No, it's a brilliant team.
My Allens are amazing. There are times like that when it's a bit, you wonder if other people hear it, because you think people just think I'm sat there and I'm not contributing anything. You're kind of greasing the wheels of his brain a little bit, or whatever it might be. But yeah, that was mine, because I only know about 4 kings and queens in order. That was one of them. So I've been learning a little bit about various things.
Go for the horrible history song then.
Well, that's a good way of learning it. Yeah. Just on comments coming through, loads of comments. We've got lots of people on tonight. Somebody on Twitter said, going on to University Challenge, Kohn is so fast, he knows what we're having for breakfast next Tuesday. Sorry, Lindsay.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Bobby said if they saw a quizzer like him, and they were like, oh, and I'm like, if I saw a quizzer like him, I'd be throwing holy water and salt on him, thinking he was possessed by a quiz demon. It's unbelievable.
But when I started doing Quiz Bowl, so it was sort of the first thing I did when I came to uni was someone, actually it was Richard Brooks, said, oh, we're sending an Imperial team to this thing. And I thought, well, I'm not busy on that day. I've never done competitive quizzing before. And I walked into a room full of people like Tom. Actually, the first people I picked up on was, hang on, these people on the Oxford team look familiar. And it was Alex Petler and Naomi Woodland, who'd just been runners-up on the most recent series. And I was like, oh my God, we have to play these people.
It's genuinely intimidating walking into your first tournament, recognizing all these faces from University Challenge.
Getting beaten 50 to 500 by Cambridge A, right? Passage.
But for the benefit of anybody surprised that we've got another face popped up, this is Thomas de Bock. He does a lot of analysis online about Quiz Bowl, university quizzing, student quizzing, and University Challenge. We've had him on the stream before, and I got a message from him saying, hey, I got some views on what happened tonight, so I thought, why not bring him in? The more the merrier. Thomas, you're pretty much a kind of a solid UC guy. Did you watch Only Connect tonight?
I did, yes. I was still making dinner at that point, hence not tweeting about it tonight, but I did pay attention to it, yes.
I mean, I thought that there was some really nice questions in there. I'm looking at the walls. I don't know. The anagrams of Roman writers, I'm not sure I'd have got there. Lindsay, you said that was one where you would have aced. Because you got the other anagrams one.
The word void was the clue, because it didn't fit with anything, so it had to be anagram. And the minute I would have said that, Alan Hayes' Rolodex would have flipped round, and then Alan Flanagan would have jumped in, and they would have, between them, they'd have got all of those 4. And we did have a bit of a system where we kind of say, right, we can't see anything. Is there an anagram? Is there a word one? Is there a whatever? Which we didn't always follow, but there you go.
I was definitely the same. Didn't spot it until one of the team members said, oh, is that Ovid? And then I thought, yes, there are the other 3. But it's one of those ones that you really benefit from having the entire team to have one person point something out, and that leads to the entire group being found. And that's why I think, Only Connect more than any other quiz show. A team really is more than the sum of its parts.
Indeed. You've been on Only Connect, haven't you, Thomas, or am I imagining it? Yes. So you've
very briefly, but yes.
You got a perspective across both shows. How would you say they compare as a kind of a team format between the two, the dynamics between the two shows?
Oh, the dynamics are quite different. I think for Only Connect, you are spending significantly bigger proportion of time just talking and bouncing ideas off of the team, and you're doing it as the clues come in, as opposed to University Challenge where you're given the question, then you've got a set, well, not even that set amount of time to just discuss everything. With Only Connect, you're really not only trying to answer the question, you're trying to work out what question is being asked a lot of the time, and that is where you benefit a lot more from people thinking differently rather than just the quantity of things that you do know.
Yeah, and then that's where Lindsay's talking about having the different perspectives, thinking about the different types of questions it could be, and trying to kind of decrypt what's going on. University Challenge, Bobby, on the other hand, I think there's more of that puzzly stuff going on now. Tonight, I noticed there are a few sets of questions where it was you take one of this sort of thing and one of that sort of thing, and you mash them together, or the last three or the first three letters, and you come up with something else. I don't know. It might be my imagination. Is there more of that going on now than perhaps when you were on it?
The thing is, when I was prepping for Universe Challenge, I watched old episodes on YouTube, and it felt like it goes in phases. It felt like in the sort of 2009, 10, 11, 12, there were lots of those types of questions. Like you take a chess piece and you're trying to navigate it around. So that like all periodic table things, combine different elements, and it sort of disappeared a bit, and now it's re-emerging. And I think I wonder whether it's a function of demand from viewers on Twitter, or whether it's that the question setters themselves have changed. Maybe the question set, maybe the people that watched Universe Challenge in the early 2010s are now like quiz writers themselves. So they sort of grew up watching that, and now they're writing more questions that are quite puzzly. Or it could be an effort to nick some of the Only Connect audience, because some Only Connect people say, oh, they only want to watch like puzzly shows, not only knowledge. So maybe it's trying to like, let's get some of their audience as well.
Interesting take, because we have got this kind of coherent-ish set of shows. Mastermind, your more standard general knowledge show, Only Connect, Fiendish and Cryptic, and University Challenge, a kind of blend of the two with the benefit of the buzzer race. So maybe there is some logic to it. I'm interested, Michael and Lindsay particularly, but Bobby and Thomas, I'm sure you have something to say on this. In a semi-final or quarter-final, as you were, Michael, tonight, did you feel the pressure? Michael, you buzzed in early and you got an answer wrong. Did you was Haptin was your answer, wasn't it? Yeah. Did you kind of think, having previously got one right, did that second one that you then got wrong, did that make you change your strategy? Did it make you more tentative, or did you just think, sod it, it's part of the game?
I'm not really sure what happened in this game. It certainly felt very different to the match against Kings. I never really went for it this game until the last two questions where I knew they couldn't catch us up. And even then, one of them was just coming off the back of Harry confused. I think he probably had 1918, which sounds about right, but it was 1818. Although finally I've been waiting for poetry so long. I think that early neg did throw me a lot. I think because Kings, we've lost the quarterfinal. If we lose again, we're out. It happens. We go home. This one was, as Bobby was saying about thinking about the final when he was in the semi-final, I was thinking, well, hang on. We didn't think we'd get to the quarterfinals, and now the semi-finals is in touching distance, and my teammates are doing really well.
Yeah.
And so I was scared I was much more scared to buzz in. The 5 starters that I did get, I probably could have got a fair shade quicker on some of them. I think lots of people describe it as sitting on them, especially the inflection thing. And as soon as I got to geometry, I was like, okay, it's definitely inflection now.
The Vivaldi one, how? Because that was one where I thought he'll be in quick on that. Was that one where they, for the people at home, we heard it earlier, or because that felt like I just thought you would be in quicker on that. Was that another case of being tentative?
Both the neg and the classical music were calculated to a certain degree. You know, we have 4 people. None of us know biology very well. I've picked up a couple of terms, and they have someone studying biology. So the thing is with Durham is because if they are watching, I rated them very, very highly. But they're not the fastest team in the world, apart from Harry on the end, who stole the question, which I felt was almost. Well, then there he is on screen.
Speak of the devil.
And he stole the question that I thought was almost designed for my Imperial team in the sense that it was both literature and chemistry. But otherwise, I thought if it gets to the end of the question, Durham will buzz in and get it right. That was my philosophy going in. So I thought, on the biology, I can probably recover it, or we can recover it as a team, if it doesn't go well. But if it gets to the end, Will Kenning will outbuzz me, even if I know it. And the classical music, I thought, actually, Tom Banbury knows his classical music, but he takes a while to think about it. So I thought, I can't, having built up I'm a classical musician, I can't then get it wrong. It's actually A-level set work, that one. And I did 2 terms of A-level music before having to drop it. And that was one of the set works I'd done. So I was like, hang on, I have studied this one. And it just took me a few more seconds.
I was personally more impressed with getting 4A off of what seemed like about 2 notes in the second part of that bonus set. But
that was
your answer on that made me think of your previous high scoring game where it's just like, it's 4A, move on, I want points, come on. That's how it felt to me. But
we could only do that once we were clear, and that's why it only happened at the very end when Imperial were, I think, on 150 and they were on 100, and I thought there's only about 3 minutes left. Durham probably can't catch us up, even if I have a -5 by this point.
Lindsay, in your game in Only Connect, when you were going into the missing vowels, there wasn't that much between. I think it's 3 points. You clawed it back to 1 point. Did you feel you were in the game? Did you feel you were going to get it until the categories didn't fall your way?
You know, we've got lightning finger Flanagan. We were never worried about missing vowels being a couple of points, but the politicians' questions sucked up so much time. Absolutely. I mean, that third one that nobody knew. Again, it was the Judge Judy meme. It was like, we need the seconds back, and then like you said, we pulled it back. But Alan had he had to buzz in and try something on the Edward Lear ones, and it was obvious Katie knew them, and so then we lost a point, but it didn't make any difference. However, that 1 point for the bonus could have made a whole different thing going in there, which is I think why I'm probably dwelling more on that than the questions we got wrong. Would have made also a bit difference. I actually feel more gutted now watching it than I did when we filmed it. I knew it was coming, and I feel absolutely devastated.
It comes in waves, doesn't it? Because you have that going out feeling of being gutted, which Bobby talked about, you talked about, and then you kind of come to peace with it, and then it comes on TV. And you have to confront it again, particularly if you can point to things where you think you should have done better. If you're beaten by a better team, it's a different thing. But if you think, if I'd have zigged rather than zagged, that kind of rubs salt into the wound again, doesn't it?
I think we were fairly equally matched, and I think we had a little advantage on previous performances with how well we'd done on the wall and with the missing vowels. All we got 10 on their wall. I know we would have, because I'd have got 3 of the groups, because I knew what Fort Sumter was. I love American history, so straight away I spotted that as a 5. We'd have been through there, but we didn't. And realistically, do you know what? It's like I said, we got to film all 6 shows, and the 3rd place playoff, it was almost like a relief. I don't know how I would have been in the final, because we were so nervous at the semi because we didn't think we should be there. But 3rd place, it was like really relaxed, and we just had such a laugh. I think that's the thing I'm going to take away from it. We, with the crew, the other teams, my teammates, just such a laugh. And I always look back fondly, but it's going to take a couple of days for this to wear off, I think.
It will. Harry chips in again. talked about so much this with my neg 5 for Shelley. What a disaster. That's it. It's so natural to reflect on the one or two things you didn't get right and forget the immense contribution that players like Harry have made, that you made, Lindsay, in getting there in the first place. It's but it is natural to focus on the negative. But I encourage not to.
I was chatting with Harry over the messenger a couple of months ago about this exact thing, and he was like, "I'm so annoyed about that question." I was like, "But you got my question, so it's even. We're even."
And really, something I've noticed is if you're looking back at your old episodes, not only will you notice the things you did wrong, but you will start telling yourself that, well, if I should have seen that in hindsight, but you say that with the hindsight of already knowing what the question was and having since learned what the thing was. So if you're telling yourself, how did I not know that? Well, you probably know it now that you've had the question on it.
It's the same as when people send you messages saying, "Oh, I've got a 5 on that one."
Yes.
And you go, but would you? Would you have buzzed in? Would you have buzzed in on one and said the answer and took the risk? No, you wouldn't have.
No.
Or you would only have done it if you did definitely know the answer. And so that's kind of a little bit, if you think something's the answer, it then becoming the answer didn't mean you knew the answer. And I always think this on the chase, when they're about to push back and one person will say one answer and one person will say another, neither of them know which one is definitely right. And when it's the other one, they'll go, "Oh, yeah. It's like, well, you didn't know. Otherwise you would have said definitely this."
Yeah. There's a lot of mental rewriting of history. Bobby, with your... it's odd when we think about the career you've gone on to have now with your Genius journey and the new TV show, which we'll touch on later. But
I think me and my husband have applied, actually.
Oh.
Does this mean I won't be able to go on?
Okay, hang on. I'm going to block you between the screen. Bobby, do you have any regrets now? Because obviously life has turned out pretty good for you. You've got so many opportunities. You get to mix with the Love Island people. It's life's good. But do you have regrets when you look back at University Challenge? Do you think, I kind of wish I'd done things differently?
So till our semi-final match, as a team, generally quite happy. The first match against Nottingham, we were a bit shaky at the start, and we were like minus 10 to 70 at one stage, because I think some of us took one train from Cambridge, and the other half of the team had supervisions or tutorials, so they left a bit later, and they were massively delayed. Like they took a train got delayed, then the train broke down, they took a replacement train, that broke down as well, then they took a bus. And then, so I was sitting there not in the green room, like in the dining area. Michael will know, in fact, Thomas will know, this is sort of like a dining area. And we saw the Nottingham team, and my team were they're like, we might need to get a replacement for Emmanuel or someone else. So when they turned up, literally like half an hour before recording starting, they were quite sweaty and nervous. So it took a while for the team to get going. So that game, I thought, the learning point there is make sure we arrive at plenty of time, not like try and get the optimal train. So we changed that. So all the other matches, fairly happy. The semi-final match, I think it was just, we were quite nervous because we knew the Wolfson team really well. We sort of practiced them the entire year. And sort of when we traded, like they beat us half the time, we beat them half the time. A lot would depend on if Eric was on fire, quite difficult to beat them. But generally we thought as a team, we could beat them. So I think in that semi-final, there were odd questions here and there. Like, again, like Lindsay, you remember, like, the odd things I think I could have zigged rather than zagged. To be honest, I think it took a while. Like my team all of us were generally upset for a while. We were like, we thought we could have won, definitely won the semi-final, and then in the final, who knows? But I can't complain. Like, I feel really privileged to have had the platform since then. Because I know when I went to University Challenge, people often think, Bobby, this is all part of a master plan. Like I went on the show, wanted to win it, and I thought, and then as it started broadcasting, so I was teaching in a school in London, and I thought, so whenever you get interviewed, I got interviews, what's it like? I would quickly steer the interview away from quizzing to talk about education and teaching. So I almost hijacked to talk about maths education, teaching, getting more people to apply for teaching profession, and sort of gave me like an additional purpose. Obviously, like I love quizzing, and I love one day when Paxman steps down, I'm definitely gunning for his position. But for me, like quizzing's been a platform to really share my love for maths and education in particular. So I feel really very lucky to be in that position.
And you don't fancy being the new mastermind host then, Bobby?
If I got offered it, I wouldn't turn it down. But I feel like it's a show where there's less personality for the whole. Okay, I read a lot of the Twitter blogs and stuff. They don't want personality. So mastermind wouldn't really suit me. I want a show where I can. Obviously, it's all about the contestants. But with Paxman, the occasionally like, oh, well done. Oh, how did you not get that? So I want that sort of show where you can show a bit of interaction. Whereas mastermind feels like the optimal host is someone that just fires through the questions and is sort of quite square and straight about it, and that's not really me.
I mean, the less said about John Humphrey's influence on Mastermind, the better, I think. But
but I have to say, I thought Mastermind tonight, putting aside the winner, who was really, really deserving, he got a fantastic 12 points in general knowledge. It was superb. But the writing in the general knowledge, I thought was pretty diverse. I was quite impressed. And one of the things we banged on about on All Things Quiz is sometimes the Anglo-centric, male-centric nature of a lot of quizzing. But there was quite a bit of diversity in there. So even up to the point of having a question where the answer was woke. But I thought that was pretty good. So I just want to acknowledge that, because I think, we've bashed shows previously for being very narrow in their diversity. So I think equally we should praise shows when they start pushing the boundaries out. So, yeah, plaudits to Mastermind, general knowledge team on that one.
Yes, strange when we do that for Mastermind on both ends of the spectrum in the same series. But
yes,
Bobby was on about quiz setters and how maybe the ones like the puzzly ones are the ones setting the questions, and surely as the next generation become those question writers, you're going to hope you get to see that more and more.
Absolutely.
I think you write what you know when it comes to questions. Most of mine will be on David Hasselhoff's chest hair. That's just the thing, which I do mention far too much. But I think maybe Mastermind have got somebody just that bit younger and a bit more of that more diverse generation coming in writing the questions, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I think Jason's saying he thought they were excellent tonight, found all 4 GK sets pretty even.
I got 10 on all 4. I was quite impressed. Same on all 4, which never happens.
Yeah, I mean, I thought... I think with Mastermind, yes, there is a diverse set of writers, particularly for the general knowledge side of things. I think if we look at the pandemic era, and I don't want to go on too much about it, but I think with things like Wiki Quiz and Mimir as well, and all these other competitions that have sprung up, OQL, etc., so many more people are getting practice at writing good, solid, regular questions. We're seeing younger voices, we're seeing more diversity, both gender and ethnicity. And if that can filter into TV, I think then the future is really, really bright. And I have no doubt that some of it will.
It's got to be one of the better things that's come out of lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this online community didn't exist, there was probably little bits of it, but not like it does now. You've got, what John's done with OQL. There are people who will never even have thought of setting a quiz before. Like you said, they'll sit down and do it and go, either I enjoy this, I can do things on weird stuff, which is good because we should all learn stuff by doing it. Sometimes I read the wiki quiz and go, I have no idea, but I need to do that quiz. I want to know some of the answers. And it's got to be one of the positives to come out of it, because there has to be some, and I think that's one of them.
Well, twofold. Firstly, I can't say too much about what they are, but I'd say that the question set in my semi-final is probably one of the most diverse question sets I've ever seen on University Channel, which was really good to play, even if some of those questions didn't go away, and maybe some of them did. I can't confirm or deny.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
But the other
questions are asked. Some people answer them.
Yes, exactly. And actually, the other thing was a lot of the art questions that came up in my matches were stuff that it's not John, that's an actor, Rob Hanna, who's a quizzer, not John Hanna, who's an actor. Rob Hanna did a cycle of art quizzes, and I went and then looked at more detail at some of the stuff that he'd set about, and it got me a lot of the art in the quarterfinals.
Brilliant. We've got so many comments coming through, but Fatima, who I believe is one of your proteges in Imperial, is that right, Michael?
Yep.
She says, Thomas, I watched your first match recently. You were brilliant. So there you go, Thomas. A little bit of love, but it shows, that the next generation are watching past episodes and learning and finding out how the game works, and the pretty much no better prep really for going on the show is to really be in that zone.
That makes sense. As with Bobby, watching past episodes is how I practice for University Challenge, and then afterwards for Only Connect. So I think that's just absolutely the best practice.
If we replace all these really trashy reality shows with quiz shows and different formats and things, tracking quizzes through their process and going into the teams, imagine how much different society would be if that's what ends up happening. Get rid of all the personality lists, faces. We've all got the same personality of a gnat. And actually
I think Bob is about to speak up in defence of Love Island. Go on,
Bob. Well, there was Love Island as a set of bonus questions a couple of years on the Celebrity Christmas University Challenge. I think one of the answers was Laura Anderson, who is. I knew the Love Island reference, but I didn't know the actual general reference. But I wanted to make a separate point about watching old episodes. I got a few answers literally from old episodes. And a couple of times on my bonus discussions, I said to the team, "Oh, so-and-so from the previous year got this correct," but they edited out those bits out. And I feel like that would be a nice, lovely reference for viewers.
They'll absolutely do that. Remove all the meta references.
I was got to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want people to see behind the curtain, do they? They want it to look like inspirational genius rather than, oh yeah, that came up in that tournament 2 weeks ago.
I mean, they did that even more when, I don't know who remembers Jon Snow's very hard questions.
Yeah.
But, I watched your episode of Jon Snow's very hard questions. You were great.
We think it's coming back. On Quiz Week Live, we had the chaps from Contestant Hub, and they said that the social media account has become active, and there's now an app in the Apple Store.
Oh, wow.
And I suspect a Very Hard Questions app means either that it took them blooming ages to develop it for the last series, or they're prepping for the next series. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the latter.
Well, yeah, my point on that show being that it was by far the one that took the longest to record. I think we were in there for something like 3 to 4 hours shooting the episode. That ended up being only about 50 minutes of actual quiz time. And they seem to have cut all the most interesting bits of the discussions, as well as added a weird laugh track and clapping track when there was no audience whatsoever in the studio. It was a really strange experience. It was absolutely good fun to make, but the editing was a bit baffling, I thought, when I was looking back at it.
Just a few more comments. Miles saying, I think I found Michael's really quick Descartes pineal gland question in an old episode recently. It pays to do your research, for sure.
If it was, I didn't see that. I saw, I think, seasons 43 through to 49 in prepping for season 50. But that one, I'd actually sat in a philosophy lecture to get that puzzle.
Bobby, well, as we got you here, what can you tell us about this new show? Because I don't want to put you on the spot or reveal anything you shouldn't reveal. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, you and Frank Paul, the fantastic Frank Paul of Only Connect fame, of devilishly tricky questions, you and he are kind of resident quiz experts who kind of try and catch out the contestants with list-based questions. Mm-hmm. Is that how it goes?
Yes, I can give you an example on the poster that they've put out for casting. So they'll put out, let's say, a double categories. They will say Shakespeare characters or prime ministers. So some of them, let's say 6 will be Shakespeare characters, 6 will be prime ministers, and then 2 to 4 will be traps that Frank and I set. And the trap will make you think, oh, that sounds like a Shakespeare character. That sounds like a prime minister, but it's not. And then with Anita Rani, you say, okay, we reckon this character is, Festa. Festa is a character from Shakespeare, so that's not a good example. You just you pick a name, and then Anita will say, unfortunately, that's a trap. And Frank, why is it a trap? And Frank will say, well, that was an anagram for a prime minister's name, but it's not the actual prime minister. So it's quite a fun show where there's a lot more involvement from the resident brains than normal. So obviously normal shows where you take on the chasers, the eggheads, it's purely based on can you beat them in a head-to-head? That's what it is, sort of. Where this is where we're not taking them on a head-to-head, where we are like setting the questions and they're on set to reveal if they fall into our traps. So it's going to be a lot
like Impossible, but better, because you've actually got that. You've got that Richard Thingy Bob element of it. Oh, I love Frank Paul. Oh, I'm like, I know I need Frank Paul. I love Frank Paul.
Frank's great. Frank's brilliant.
So is it still open for application, Bobby?
Yes, it still is. It still is.
And when you
the rule is that you've got to be within. So you've got to be in the same COVID bubble. So it's teams of 2. And I've seen people on Twitter saying, the person they want to pair up with is. But my gut, again, I can't tell, but my gut feel tells me that there'll probably be season 2 and 3 of this. It's sort of Channel 4. I'm really excited by it, and obviously I'm excited, but it's.
Do you know what though? That'll be more fun because if I apply, which I did with Steve, who you saw like coming on like the MP thing, looking for the body on. So he's used to he's not a quizzer, and I always call him my Tesco teammate because he just knows loads of stuff I don't. So every little helps, much like me with the 2 Allens. So it's interesting because it's not 2 quizzers, and a lot of households, I imagine, are like mine, where you've got 1 quizzer and 1 not, and if unless you get Paul and Oliver, Paul, places like that. But most of them, I think, so it'd be fun because it'll be a bit more. You know, you're not just going to get 2 geniuses teaming up and beating everybody. I think the first series will be quite
really good conversations because if you know in conventional shows you get quizzes that band together and you can tell they've got like a regiment, a training, a sort of discipline about the way they approach it. Whereas here you'll get one person that probably loves quiz and the other person's a partner or a sibling or someone else who sort of watches shows but is a more of a casual viewer. So I think it will lead to really interesting dynamics.
Watching, and we're not afraid to have a domestic on tele for the drama.
I'll step in.
Do the emails and have a look. And,
I think the analogy I've got for the relationship that you'd have with the contestants is, again, less like the chasers and more like, say, on QI, where instead of having the Caxtons, you just see James Hawkins saying, "Ha -10."
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So
I think it sounds really fun.
I think so too. I'm kind of in the same bracket.
I'll still watch it.
I'm in the same bracket as Dave Matthews on this one. I want to apply for the show, but my other half won't do TV.
Do it anyway.
I'm now getting the tongue stuck out of me.
Don't tell them. And then when the thing comes through, because I didn't really tell him that I was doing it.
Just say, do you fancy a trip to Glasgow? And, by the way, you get to wear makeup.
Why do we have to be in Manchester by 10 a.m. on a Thursday?
I mean, we were talking earlier about very hard questions taking a long time to film. Bobby and I probably only just got out of the filming of Quizmaster. It took that long, didn't it? It was deathly. I mean, that was over 6 hours of our life that we won't get back. But it was, it had its fun elements. And actually, one of the things I do want to mention, and we've had comments in here about Sean Williamson. He's on House of Games at the moment. So good luck to Sean. He's a friend of the channel. He was also on Quizmaster. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love Barry from EastEnders.
Yeah, so he's on House of Games. He was also on Quizmaster with myself and Bobby. We met, the last time I met Dave Rainford, who was on Eggheads, was that night after we filmed, and he was in the bar, and we had a good long chat and a bit of a drink with him. And I just want to say he's the anniversary of his passing was yesterday, so just a little bit of a shout out to Dave, and glad that Man United beat Man City for him. That will no doubt please him wherever he is. But I think it's just right to mention he is much missed. He was much loved and much missed. And
can I say a couple of words on Dave as well?
Yeah, go on.
One of the things about the thing is the quiz community is generally a welcoming one, but Dave is like in a welcoming community, one of the most outstanding at being welcoming. Like I first joined like a few of these quiz events, and you'd say, "Oh, come over, lad. What are you doing? Is this your first time? Where are you from?" Go chatting about football, and even just a couple of days before he passed, we were still exchanging voice notes about. He'd say, "Oh, tough luck about West Ham. They played really well." And he's one of those people that like a proper people's person. Like everyone who met him felt touched by his sort of warmth and generosity, as well as being a top class quizzer. So we always be in our hearts and minds.
When we go to the Quiz in the North, so I'd never really sat and talked to him that much, but obviously you're aware of the room, and he made an effort to ask me to help with the afternoon quiz, the more team, the less serious one, because he was going to do a Quiz in the North there, and I was really touched that he did that, because it's that inclusive. Everybody, you might not be the best quiz, that's not what he said, obviously, and I might not be, but I can probably write a damn good afternoon light-hearted quiz. And he was so welcoming, and I only literally had a very short space of time of speaking to him, sadly, before he did get taken.
Yeah, Jamie Dodding said on Facebook the other day that he had this ability to, the first time you met him, to make it feel like you were a lifelong friend, and for it not to feel false, because he just made you come away feeling really good about yourself and about the interaction with him. He was one of a kind. So I just kind of, it's been preying on me for the last day or so, because he was a wonderful guy, and would have been wrong perhaps not to mention him. Gerard's saying here, the shock when we were told David Pass was palpable. Nobody had a bad word for him, even if they support Man City or Liverpool. He liked his Man United. So that's Dave. Tonight's action, I know we kind of flitted around from place to place, but Thomas, what stood out to you from University Challenge tonight? Because you're a real University Challenge nerd, aren't you?
I mean, there are bigger nerds than I about this. For instance, the people who just keep accurate stats throughout the night and who do the fantasy University Challenge. But I certainly noticed that teams were really doing basically, this series, I think, is when bonus conferring has really been nailed by all of the teams still remaining in the competition. I think the standard at which teams are getting everyone involved and doing so openly and quickly and getting the answers through, that's something I've noticed has improved year on year. And this year has just been absolutely staggering. But I also noticed that basically everyone on both teams managed to get buzzes, which is just goes to show, I think, that at this point in the show, if you don't have a balanced team where every member can pull their weight and get buzzes throughout the competition, if you don't have that, you're just not going to get far enough anymore.
It's the thing that gives you that edge, isn't it? That little bit of an edge is knowing that it could come from anywhere. It's like in football, a team where the goals can come from anywhere is always going to be better than one that relies on one person. And
absolutely,
again, you said we saw that tonight, and we saw a good example of the art of captaincy from Michael, I think it was, if my notes are correct, when you were thinking about the Danish territory that was hived off, and somebody was doubting whether it was Iceland. You go, well, what else could it be? And then you just put your foot down, went for it, and got it. And I thought that was really good, kind of decisive captaincy, because you could have discussed that for another 30 seconds. And, who knows at the end of the game, that could be critical, couldn't it?
Actually, what I want to say about this episode was I did sort of hint that this would have happened on Twitter, was that I quoted what Brandon said about his team going into the final, of course, where it wasn't Brandon versus Wang and everyone had called. It was actually Caleb who was the star of the show. And I said, there were a lot of people who think, because up until this match, I have been the one getting a lot of the starters from Imperial, but then we've been very balanced on the bonuses. And of course, because there's a noise associated with one and there's not associated with the other, people assume that means that I'm carrying my team. And I thought this is not the case. They are really good.
Absolutely.
I wasn't thrilled with my own performance tonight. It was good by the end, but until the end, it was looking like I was not doing very much and getting a lot of wrong answers. But I was really happy that we'd had a game where everyone got, I think my teammates got 2 starters each, and I, by the end, had 4, 5, I don't know. And I was really happy for them. This match was also really weird because I think I did a lot of the bonus work, which usually is their thing, especially as actually they talked me out of 2 things that I knew. There was the last classical music one was, I thought, well, this Stravinsky's the only one I know with the neoclassical period, and Imran talked me out of it. And he's apologized approximately once per week, and it's still fine. Because ultimately, I was just so happy that, whatever happens now, we've had that match where we've seen just quite what my teammates can do.
No, absolutely.
Bobby, as a captain yourself, did you take kind of more pride in an all-round team performance than one where you blitzed it yourself? Is it more satisfying for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think partly because I'm a teacher. When I was on university, I was doing my master's part-time, teaching part-time. So I felt like sounds a bit cliched, but I wanted to be a role model for my students. You might be captain, but your job as a captain is not just to be the best player you can be on the field as a football player, but it's to bring out the best in your teams. Ultimately, the team wins it. Even if there are times where there's someone that's tearing up the pitch, like a Jesse Lingard as he is for West Ham today, if you want to know. So I have to talk about that. But it's ultimately the team that needs to perform as well. So I love the answers. Again, this year, one thing I want to speak to Michael briefly about, like what's been like having an audience and not having an audience, and just so how it's impacting the way you quiz or not. But one of the things that I really loved is the questions where, as a team, we didn't quite know the answer, but we sort of threw out some options, eliminated things, and then went for a sensible guess. And when they came out, they felt like the most satisfying things, even more satisfying than the buzzers on after 3 or 4 words, because they're the ones where maybe individually we didn't know it, but as a team we threw in bits and bobs. And there's even one funny moment where I think Tom Hill and our team was saying, "Oh, we were discussing this on the train. What was it, Bobby?" And then eventually we got there, and again you got a laugh from the audience. But there for me are the moments which really showed up.
Yeah,
a proper unit. Even if there are times where individual players have a little like a streak or flourish.
Because it's meant to be fun as well. It's meant to be fun. And actually, the person who really epitomized this for me is Holly Parkinson, because she's definitely not the strongest individual on her team, but she's by far, I think she's the best captain on this series, perhaps in recent years, just because she's so good at bringing the answers from her team together.
And that is what you want from a captain. Sometimes you want the person who can like pull an answer from what everyone is saying. Sometimes you just want the person who can rattle off an answer as fast as possible. It depends on how your bonus dynamic is working. And to a certain extent, I think you can leave it quite late in the process to decide who your captain is going to be. And you can work that out by conferring as teams while you practice and working out what makes most sense.
We took 3 or 4 practice sessions to work out who was going to be the captain on my team. And it was to the point where I was asking who wants to do this. And actually, we'd been rotating me, Imran, and Katie, and the other 2 said, actually, I don't want to do it. So I thought, not a huge fan of it, but I'll do it.
So Fatima said the Greek letter bonuses are a great example of the group work. Interesting, because Lindsay's experience of teamwork, very much a similar thing in the sense of piecing things together. But you didn't have the benefit of 4 practice sessions to work out who the captain was, because you were put together with your team. So you were finding that dynamic really on close to the recording, weren't you?
Well, actually, I think because in the audition we were together, it was. So I was captain for the audition just because, well, I got to actually contribute something by pushing the button on the computer. But I think it became really obvious that Alan had the skill to be that person who can either go, right, I'm making a decision and I'm going to get you to answer it because that sounds right, or I'm going to pull things together and also say something incredibly charming and funny. So we didn't have lots of chance, but it was obvious from our audition who our captain was, just naturally. And then the dynamic we had wasn't built around him being the captain. The dynamic we had was just learning each other's strengths and weaknesses, because that's what helped him be a good captain. And he practiced the ball. He had a lot on his shoulders, so he had to practice, being able to do it all. But yeah, we didn't necessarily focus on his captain skills, but our dynamic as a team, and it had worked up to tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of relate to that, because even though I went on Only Connect with people I knew, we'd never played together as a team, so we had to kind of forge that team dynamic. So in a way, University Challenge gives you that slight advantage, except the fact everybody else also has that ability to learn each other. Gerard said I was captain on Only Connect because I sat by the bell at the audition. So yeah, Gerard, it may also have been your singing, but who knows?
I think it really depends. I think on our team it was Stanley, mostly because he was the one who had the idea to have an Only Connect team. It really depends on what you value, and ultimately, if you're all contributing equal amounts, you can just make it the person who's most comfortable talking to the host. Everyone has their own rationale.
Ultimately, it should be the person who's the best on missing vowels, because if it comes down to a tie break, that's what's happening. And that definitely happened. Even if Alan had been Alan, he would have needed to be the captain for that very reason. We were lucky that actually he had all those other qualities as well. So I think that's where we do have that consideration, where it's captains only.
That's a very good point, because the way the tiebreak works on Only Connect is that you literally see a missing vowel with no context, and you just have to see it and get in early. It's horrendous pressure. I know some people who've been in that situation and said it was absolutely the most terrifying aspect of any TV they've done. And I'm glad I didn't have to do it. Although, actually, if I'd had that in the semi-final, I'd have taken it as opposed to being beaten. So,
well, statistically, I think it's been worked out that in that case, you should have a woman as your captain, because there have been something between 10 and 15 Only Connect tiebreakers where it was a man versus a woman, and every single time the woman has won that tiebreaker. I think that's been worked out, and so that's a weird statistical nugget there.
We'd have been screwed then.
Before we move on, Bobby was going to say something, and then I very rudely cut him off. And
I'm going to ask you, one's actually a comment about this, and then a question for Michael. The comment is, I bet Universe Challenge question writers are going to have missing vowels as a picture round. They really should, like, on Universe Challenge, like, I don't know, like missing like capital cities or former names of capital cities. But I want to ask Michael, so your first round, was that with an audience?
Yes.
And then, so how did you find the experience change? Because also the audience, like, you've got your members of your family there, friends from Imperial, maybe some old quizzes, and then by the time it was the second round, was it without an audience?
So it was everything that wasn't the first round. So high scoring news.
How did you find the change? Did it change the way that you played the quiz? Your anxieties about it, or?
So I am a very anxious person generally. I think Tom's seen that from moderating the other quiz formats.
Yeah.
But I think I performed. I think my team, half of my team at least, did better without an audience. I think there was a lot less pressure there, especially because they'd removed the seat. You know where the seating is. They'd removed all of that, so it was it was the bare minimum. You couldn't really see very much, so it helped you concentrate a lot more. And I didn't feel like I was letting anyone down. My family were in the audience for the first one. I was so scared of getting stuff wrong. I just didn't buzz in on a lot of stuff that I knew. And then when the classical music came up, I was like, hang on, if I get this wrong, my family are literally right here. And then I got it wrong.
Yeah, it's certainly an experience to be there on the set with, you've got all the lights in your eyes. So you know that somewhere in that big black void that takes up most of your field of view is a few dozen people watching you play. And also Roger Tilling up there on his little raised platform. And you can't see that. You know it's there, and you have to focus on questions. And it's really difficult. Actually,
Thomas, on that, so in the first couple of matches, my family sat right in the front row. And I had days eye surgery a few years ago. My eyesight's very good. So I could see them. So you could see in my second round match, a couple of times I'll be looking, it looks really strange. I'm looking into the distance and a little wry smile. I'm smiling at my family. They're like going,
oh.
Yeah. And then they said, Bobby, you're getting distracted. Focus on the quiz. So from round 1, round 2 to the quarters. So quarters onward, I stopped. So normally the starter questions, I'm there looking up. I'm sort of looking at my family, like little smirks towards them. But in the quarters, as they're looking down the buzzer, they said, Bobby, stop worrying about us, just focus on the questions. So I definitely felt the audience presence, or my family's presence anyway.
If you've seen how some teams perform now in this series where they didn't have the option, would you have still had your family there?
I think it's my family, I'm one of 4 siblings. My dad's one of 10. We've got so many cousins. Everyone's in everyone's face. I think we're just used to having some there. Like for me, silence is. I don't do well with silence. Or I love teachers. I love talking out loud in front of my students. So maybe for me, I probably wouldn't perform well without other people there.
Fair enough. I kind of hope that when they film the next series, whenever that is, that they do open up the audience. Because I'd really like to see how my team get on. I'm very keen on them.
I've heard that we probably should not be that optimistic about it, but fingers crossed.
I can still hope. Although if they think I'd be putting them off, I wouldn't go.
Who knows how it will change for the later rounds? But yeah.
Well, we don't quite know how things are going to play out. I think it's I wouldn't be surprised if the next series of University Challenge, Only Connect, and Mastermind start off much as they've been for the majority of this series, but at least we know that they haven't suffered for it. We've had brilliant quizzing action. We've had great entertainment, loads of laughs. It hasn't curtailed any of that side of things. So, you know, we know that what we'll be getting next time will be equally as good, or in the case of Mastermind, hopefully better. But we shall wait to see what happens in that regard. Fatima is just so we shall wait and see what happens if and when Imperial get on. Guys, it's been brilliant having you on. I really appreciate you giving up your evening and missing out on the Sussexes dishing the dirt on the Royals, but that is available on our TV player afterwards, and some things you just need to see live. So thanks to everybody who's watched. Thanks to Bobby, Michael, Thomas, Lindsay. 3 of you have been on before, and thanks for coming back. Bobby, brilliant to have you on. You're welcome anytime. It's been a delight, and I hope the first day back at school wasn't too taxing for you today.
I think the kids just want to be back in. I like the thing is with Google Classrooms, you can silence kids, you can mute them. Can't do that in the classroom. That's what it is.
In 2 weeks, Michael.
Yes.
Yes.
Be good to have you back because it's always a joy with both of you. So we'll talk about that separately. But thanks, Bobby, Michael, Thomas, and Lindsay for coming on tonight. Thomas for zapping me and saying, "Hey, I'm up for coming on." So that was great. People take note. Just a reminder, coming up on All Things Quiz this week, we've got Quiz Week Live at 8 o'clock on Thursday, where we'll talk about the world of competitive quizzing. We'll have some coverage of the British Student Quiz Championships.
I'm sure you will by then. I'll come up with something.
One way or another, we will have coverage. We know Michael was taking part in that, so we'll look forward to hearing what these University Challenge geniuses were doing with their Saturday just gone. We've got our What is the Question competition running, so don't forget to vote for that on Twitter or on our Facebook group. And we've got nominations still needed for Quizzer of the Week and Quiz Team of the Week. Email allthingsquiz@gmail.com. We'll announce the winner next Monday. We'll announce the nominees on Thursday at Quiz Week. We'll hopefully have another video or two out, maybe a Quiz Academy one as well. More videos that will help you get better at quiz. But in the meantime, till then, thank you so much for everybody who's watched. Thank you for everybody who's been on the stream, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me on.